Кога и во каков формат ќе се случи следното проширување на Европската Унија во новиот безбедносен контекст? Можен ли е влез на нови земји членки во големото европско семејство без реформи во самата Унија? Како се вклопува Република Северна Македонија во комплексниот европски мозаик? Многу отворени прашања, бројни дилеми. Дел од одговорите ќе побаравме овде во Брисел од релевантни експерти и членови на Европскиот парламент. Проширувањето на Европската Унија се врати високо на агендата на најжешки политички прашања. Војната во Украина и растечките безбедносни закани на европскиот континент ја изфрлија на површина темата за проширување на Унијата со балканските земји, надополнето со Украина, Молдавија и Грузија, и тоа на така наречена брза трака.
Today is an important day if it comes to enlargement policy because the Commissioner Farrelly, has also announced that the Commission is ready to propose the start of the negotiations talk with Ukraine, and is also very positive regarding Moldova. And we think it's a very positive development that our neighboring countries start to also getting a real perspective of entering the EU and to have a more closer cooperation. For me, it's very important that the focus on Eastern Europe does not come at the cost of the Western Balkan countries, who are for a long time, of course, candidates for becoming a part of the EU, but actually on the contrary, that this process with Ukraine will also accelerate the perspective for the Western Balkan countries. I think the citizens really deserve it. They need to see a concrete future for themselves within the EU. But it would also be a very effective instrument to make sure that the Russian influence is not gaining ground in our neighboring countries. So I really hope that we will also see positive developments regarding enlargement for North Macedonia specifically and Albania, because those countries, they have done so many reforms already. The people are waiting so long that we should really make sure that they are not going to lose the trust in the EU, which is already happening at the moment.
Стрик потенцира дека Европа не може само да бара реформи од земјите кандидати, туку да обезбеди и поголема помош во тој процес и конечно да се укине правото на вето, кое што нашата земја веќе го има искусено како ладен туш од Франција, кога председателот Емануел Макрон имплементираше нова методологија, а потоа и ветото од Бугарија, и тоа која се однесуваше на историски и идентитетски прашања директно спротивно на копенхагенските критериуми.
There should be much more focus but also support in the candidate countries to the necessary reforms, if you think of rule of law, anti-corruption, so not only demanding but also giving full support and making it happen, and on the other hand be more credible as the EU. And that means that we should make clear what needs to be done, but then also deliver at the moment that the countries are performing well. And that would really require that there are not so many political decisions being made in the meantime during this process. So the European Parliament proposes to lift the veto that is now currently making it possible for every member state during every chapter of the process to block the ongoing accession process. What is now happening, what has happened with Bulgaria, for instance, towards North Macedonia. We want to have at the moment that it's said, okay, we start the process, that there's only qualified majority for member states to assess if progress is made and then continue the process. Only then I think we can regain trust among the citizens of the Western Balkan countries.
Но дали брзата трака за влез во ЕУ значи дека може да се надеваме на скорешен влез во Унијата? Корина Стратулат, експерт за балканските земји во Европскиот институт за политики, не е оптимист дека тоа е можно, но и дека темата за проширување доби нереални очекувања без многу конкретни потези.
I think rhetorically we're all on the same page, and we've seen it. I mean, from all institutions as well as key member states, the support is there at the level of discourse. But then when it comes to actually making progress on things and deciding what should be done, when it should be done, how it should be done, there I think the discussions are ongoing. And to a large extent, it is because the new enlargement format is posed, as well as the urgency of it that has been highlighted rhetorically, is posing a series of very difficult questions where hard choices will have to be made. Trade-offs probably will have to be made as well. And so in a sense, we're kind of confronting those topics seriously, probably for the first time in a long time, which means that we don't have any answers up the sleeve. So we will have to find ways to work on the different subjects together.
Можно ли е проширување без реформи во самата Европска унија?
Some enlargement is possible without any internal reforms. For example, if you were to have 1, 2, 3 countries from the Balkans accede, they could be absorbed. They could become member states without affecting much the functioning of the EU. The budget could absorb them. The institutions could absorb them in terms of, I don't know, decision-making rules, in terms of commissioners, in terms of MEPs. You know, if countries like Montenegro or Albania or North Macedonia manage to come in, I don't think it would put such pressure on the EU's institutional framework or budget that they couldn't be absorbed. But of course, if we talk about enlargement in terms of all of the Balkan countries, plus Ukraine, plus Moldova and Georgia, not to mention Turkey, but we're far away from that discussion at the moment.
За растечкиот евроскептицизам во Македонија и недовербата дека и покрај сите направени отстапки ќе добиеме место во европското семејство, европарламентарката Стрик вели.
Regarding North Macedonia and Bulgaria, that was a very painful process already a year ago, or more than a year ago, that North Macedonia felt it had no other chance than to accept this requirement from Bulgaria. I think what we now need to do is to overcome this first hurdle. So I would really hope that there can be a sufficient political majority in the Parliament of North Macedonia to approve the constitutional change, but on the other hand, that there should be sufficient pressure on the Bulgarian government saying, look, everyone now needs to deliver on its promises, but no further blockage, no further obstacles, because that would really lead to a huge political crisis in North Macedonia. Because I really can imagine, I really feel that it's difficult that on the basis of a lack of trust to deliver on the constitutional reform, which is already quite a huge thing to ask from the Parliament. We can only do that if the European Commission and also all other member states make clear, for us, you know, then there should be no further hurdle. Then they should have the confidence that the accession process starts until the moment of real accession to the EU.
Без разлика, кога ќе се случи следниот прием на нови членки, експертите се недвосмислени дека реформите, особено во поглед на владење на правото и антикорупција, се клучни прашања кои единствено може да гарантираат просперитет и подобар живот за граѓаните.
The people in North Macedonia, as well as in all of the other enlargement countries, don't want enlargement for the sake of having enlargement or becoming member states. So being a member state is important, but having a political system in which they feel represented, in which they feel that their rights and liberties are protected, where they feel that the system works for them, and it's responsible, you know, where politicians are responsible, are accountable to the people, is far more important. And having a functioning economy, which also depends on the rule of law, is far more important for people and for electorates than EU membership. So I think when we talk about reforms and EU reforms, I think they should be seen as something that the countries, that the enlargement countries have to do irrespective of membership or not. That is good for them, and they should be doing reforms that are good for them and that helps their system. And I think that's far more important for the people than, if you ask me, than EU membership per se. Why the conditionality, democratic conditionality is important? Well, yes, it is one of the fundamentals. We know it's been part of the pillars that the Commission strategy has established a long time ago, and we know that this is something where many member states are going to be very firm about. And they are firm also because of what's happening inside the EU, because we do have problems with member states inside the European Union not sticking to democratic standards, and where it is very difficult due to a lack of effective instruments or use of existing instruments to redress problems once they occur inside the EU. So for its own problems with democracy, I think many member states are very adamant about new entrants being able to meet democratic conditions. That's one thing. But also, meeting democratic conditions, again, is good for those countries. It's good for the population of those countries.
Европарламентарката Стрик го потенцира проширувањето и како многу значајно безбедносно прашање.
What we see, and I think that the Russian invasion in Ukraine has showed us all how fragile we are and how depending we are also on authoritarian regimes who have their own agenda. And that if we are not alert and trying to find a common strategy, we will stay dependent from those external actors. And we will be divisive. So, and in that way, we cannot make sure that our values, the way that we want that our citizens can live their life, is secured. So we need to have a common approach, a common response. And that would mean that we need to take very seriously how Russian, but also other actors like China, Turkey, others are trying to undermine the unity within the EU and are also trying to divide countries surrounding the EU. And the only way to combat that effectively is making sure that we support our neighboring countries much stronger and much more vigilant. And therefore accession is, I think, the most powerful tool that we have to become more effective towards those third authoritarian regimes, and also make sure that more citizens can live in a more prosperous future and enjoy the rights and values that we all share within the EU.